we're kind of breaking that mold as far as what our parents used to drink, for sure.
Did your folks drink wine?
No. My mom was never really a drinker. I didn't know my pops. I just met him recently in life, actually.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, so little segue. I took a DNA test. Never knew my dad growing up, and came back. I was 49% Sicilian. And
Whoa!
I was like, what the fuck? I thought my dad was Polish or something. His last name was like what my mom thought, Nowecki, right? So I was like, I grew up thinking I was like a Polak and German and Irish, and so was like, oh shit, like no wonder I love food and wine so much, and I'm passionate and full of fiery. And then was showing my partner, and she's also Italian, and I was like, I think I'm a little bit more Italian. And we were comparing it, and I saw a little blip at the top that there was a message or a match, right? And it was a half sister, so we shared 50% of our DNA. And I was like, messaged her. She messaged me back. They live in Phoenix, and
oh my
gosh.
I
just met the Tomasellis last year, and this whole Italian family. My grandparents are immigrated from Sicily. They're 93 and 86, and the whole family crest on the wall. So,
no.
I envision them drinking Italian for sure. And then Sicilian wines, just kind of fell in love with those recently in life also, and made that connection. And
post learning about the heritage?
Pre-learning about heritage, kind of getting a little bit of exposure to them, and then all of a sudden, like, some really great producers are coming in, and then not, the market wasn't flooded with them by any means, but there was, like, approachable bottles for sure.
Yeah. Wow, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
I had no idea about any of that.
Yeah. So
thanks for sharing that.
Absolutely. So,
are you comfortable talking about it?
Yeah, totally.
All right, cool.
So it's been a unique connection to a heritage I never knew, and but I'm really inspired by, because I always felt like the rest of my family was like blonde haired, blue eyed. I had brown hair, big eyebrows,
right?
Like, tanned a little bit darker in the sun, and was like, huh.
You were like, something's
interesting.
different.
Something's different. Yeah.
But you could never. Oh, you even had that thought as a kid.
I just knew that, like, my grandma, my mom, my sister, like, that side of the family was all
interesting.
Didn't look like me.
Wow.
As far as hair color and eye color. Beautiful eyes, like blonde hair, fair skin, and yeah. So I always knew something was different, and then, got into food and wine, and had a busing job when I was 16 with at David Sellers, actually, that's running Orno. That's his restaurant. He had an Italian restaurant called Amavi, where Saison is now, and just kind of had my mind blown wide open with food. Before that, I was working at the Blue Corn and, like, slinging enchiladas and shit, and I was like, oh yeah, food's cool.
Yeah.
And then had that aha moment where I was like, holy shit, food's really fucking amazing.
It can be something more.
Yeah, special and loving and magical, and and so ran with that, I think, and
So it was food first.
Food first, because I was a teenager, and I would, I'd steal, like, half-drink sangrias and, old warm martinis off tables and pound them in the dish pit.
Yeah, yeah.
But food came first, and then and I moved to Seattle, Washington when I was 18, and struggled out there. The economy was shit. It was like 2008. Everything crashed.
Oh, right.
And then eventually came home and came back here and started at La Boca as a busser, and just had an amazing wine director there who then, blew my mind further open with wine. And then wine became, a little bit of my life for the last 15 years.
For sure. What sense of, when you learned this about yourself, there must have been some sense of, like, validation, or like, oh my God, did this make sense? Or
totally.
What were you thinking, man?
I mean, the whole time I thought, that my father wanted nothing to do with me, right? That, they knew that I was a child and born to them, and, left my mom and kind of skipped town before I was born, kind of deal, right? So always had this, like, deep resentment towards a human that I didn't even know, that I just had an idea of in my head. And, lived with that for a long time. It was like, it's always a struggle growing up with one parent, and, watching your mom struggle, and, never having that, good life, quote unquote, or whatever. and then discovering you have a whole side of your family that actually, you know, wanted to meet me and wanted to be a part of my life was, you know, it's heavy shit. But
Yes.
it was really warming, and you know, it felt like a piece of me was finally completed in a, you know, sense. So, yeah.
Were you able to? Is your father still alive? Were
Yeah,
you able
still
to
alive.
meet him? And
Yeah, totally. So I Bella and I, my partner, booked a music festival in Phoenix because they all live in Phoenix, and went. And I have 3 other half siblings, to him and their mom, and so Haley was the one I connected with on the DNA app, and so we booked this music festival, and we're meeting the family. So we're doing this like cool dual trip.
what a
fun.
weekend!
Yeah, super fun. You know, incredibly nerve-wracking, right? You're meeting like, and it's a big Italian family. There's like, you know, they live in this big ass house that my grandfather built in Scottsdale. He was a barber and started all these hair salons when he first moved here, and then started an empire and sold them. Right?
Whoa!
Made a bunch of money. Yeah,
Cool.
Just cutting hair. Just
Cool.
like crazy.
Yeah.
And Nona, she's like, you know, they cook every day. They're like up at 6 in the morning, like cooking food on Sundays, like Sunday sauce, super traditional
Sunday sauce.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Italian family,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so, me being in the food and wine industry and like having this like excitement about food and wine, was so excited to like, because we'd been exchanging pictures, and they're like, look at all the food we cook, and I was like, holy fucking shit, I can't fucking wait.
Yeah.
And she did that on Sunday, like cooked a huge fucking lunch of meatballs and
Damn.
pasta and sauce and fresh made bread and fucking insane.
Yeah.
And so, you know, hung out with them. My grandmother, my mom's mom, also lives in Phoenix, and so she came with me because she was like, I mean, I knew these guys, but my mom went to high school with them. And that's how, you know,
Right.
they met, and they had a bar in Phoenix called the Mason Jar Bar, and my mom would bartend there, and like that's where it all, you know, kind of happened. And then she
Mhm.
thought it was somebody else because, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it was, you know, incredibly. I was super nervous, but super excited, and you know, now have this whole.
Wait,
side of
hold
this
on.
family.
She thought it was somebody else.
Yeah,
Like you mean like
because she was
your dad?
Yeah, she was in
Right.
her, you know, early 20s and
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
messing around.
Right.
and-
I just wanted to make sure I understood what you meant.
yeah, totally.
Um.
And then she had like a boyfriend that, you know, then left, and that's who I thought my dad was the whole time. 'cause
Okay.
She thought too, and we even did a DNA test with him, and it came back negative. But she thought that like his brother took it, and there was this whole like, you know,
Oh.
paranoia about that in my in that side of the family, that it was like just enough off that it didn't match or something.
So
It's in
then
the 90s, so it's
Your biological father was also learning of this.
yeah,
Did
had
he
no
have
idea.
any idea? Like,
no,
man, I slept with that lady, and then 9 months later she had a kid.
he had no idea.
No one put it together.
The story and what I've heard, because his brother Natali had an idea, because he lived in Hawaii, and he came back after I was born, and he was like, hey Shelly, I wanted to like check up on you, like swinging back by town, and like she thinks that he knew the whole time
Uh huh.
that it was his kid, that it was his brother's kid, so
Uh huh.
and he's just like, I just want to see the baby.
Oh.
So yeah.
Wow.
Old like long dun 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 like kind of drama history.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah.
Dude, you want to know? So something crazy that I've like started to maybe become aware of as I'm getting older is how similar I am to my dad.
And you knew your dad?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's been in my life,
Mhm.
and great guy. I'm really close with my family,
Awesome.
but just like little things, like I always thought growing up that I was like my mom, because I was always a real emotional boy. I would cry all the time, and people just thought like, oh, and my mom always cries.
Mm-hmm.
So my mom's very emotional.
Yeah.
So I just always thought, oh, I'm just like my mom. And then as I got, and my dad was kind of like, you know, my dad was like factory worker. He worked at General Motors. He like fixed, he did like demolition derby and shit. He
Nice.
like fixed cars and like, you know, he had a mullet, all this stuff. So I never
Yeah.
felt like I related to my dad
Sure.
a whole lot. But then as I started to get a little bit older, just I would look at myself and like how I get out of bed and like my shoulders and how I walk, and people would start to be like, oh my god, you look so much like your dad, or like that's so much, your dad would totally do that. And then the last time I went home, I was looking at our hands, And I was like, we
Yeah.
have the same
Yeah, yeah.
exact hands.
Yeah, I'll show you some pictures in a minute, and you'll be like, "Oh, fucking holy shit!"
So this is what I was wondering.
Yeah.
When you look at this guy for the very first time, are you like, oh, okay.
Yeah,
I
that's
get
what it is. Brown eyes, brown hair,
Yeah.
and I was in darker, little bit darker skin. I mean,
Uh-huh.
obviously they live in Phoenix, and like everyone there is just a dark little lizard, but you can definitely tell.
Yeah.
I mean, the Sicilian people, it's like a
Yeah. Phoenix
sun-scorched
makes sense.
earth, right?
Yeah, a little away from ocean, from the sea, but
Yeah.
that's all right.
So it was, and I was like, oh, and like I said, they had the whole family crest from both sides of the family up on the wall, right?
Yeah.
Dating back to like, I don't know, early 1800s, like whenever cameras were invented and they started taking pictures, like like great grandparents.
Yeah.
And seeing similarities in there and be like, holy shit, like there's the big eyebrows, there's the, dark hair. And I was
Uh-huh.
like, holy shit, this is fucking
Yeah.
trippy. So it was this incredibly like trippy experience.
I bet.
But one that was filled with so much love and like instantaneous, which was like I wasn't expecting, right? And because
There was no like weirdness. It was like
no, and the other side of my family, my mom's side, they're like not loving. They're passive aggressive. They're like, my
Mhm.
grandpa, her dad never told them, like was like, never like I love you or
Yeah,
like here's
yeah.
a hug or anything.
yeah.
And my grandma too. They were all just like little passive aggressive weirdos. And
Uh-huh.
that's kind of how we.
You know what's
were
funny
raised.
is my mom's side of the family's like that too.
So funny. And then I walk into this house and they're like,
Get some food. Make yourself
oh
a
my
plate.
God, look at you.
Yeah. Oh.
And like my grandparents are like 5 foot. Like maybe he's 5'1" and she's like 4'10", tiny
Uh-huh.
little Sicilian people.
Yeah.
And then I'm like towering over them. I'm 6'2", and I'm like, come here, no, oh my God. I'll show you some pictures.
That's so
somewhere.
cute,
It's, like,
man. I'm
pretty
kind of
funny.
getting emotional just
Yeah.
for you, man. This
Yeah.
is a really special. That's so cool, man.
Yeah. And so I brought a bunch of Sicilian wine with me. We ate lunch. They drank wine. So I
Uh-huh.
envisioned them, circling back, drinking, a lot of Italian wine.
Yeah. And they're like, "No, we'll take some Naomi."
Yeah. Maybe.
No, I'm just
I didn't dig in the cellar, but